Welcome to the channel. My name is Jodie Knight. You can find me over on eToro. My live portfolio there is going to be linked in the description down below. But other than that, in this video, we're going to talk about the daily chart, the weekly chart, the short and long-term, long-dated options interest. We'll talk a little bit about my price targets, where I'm going to add, where I'm going to trim. As well as that, we'll look at the general market, what data came out, what data is coming out, and if there's any good Tesla news that we're interested in. Let's just jump straight into it. Okay, so hopping straight into Tesla charts. Obviously, we can all tell that it got quite extended. I did make a couple of trims there marked on the chart with the red dotted lines. I think I actually made an ad, but I don't remember adding it to the chart, so I'll check that and add it for the next video if I did. But I will be buying more Tesla with my monthly deposit tomorrow. Hopefully it falls lower and continues to fall. I would love for it to get back down to 365. Don't know if it will though. The fundamentals coming out are just chef's kiss. So we'll do what we can with this one. But technicals for the most part don't seem to be leading the charge on this one, which is not a bad thing. It's good to see fundamentals take charge for a change. We are getting a lot of overbought signals on the MACDX Plus there, which obviously every time we did that a lot, I did some trimming just to take a little bit of risk off the table. Did add some back on the initial trims down here in the middle kind of area, and I'm looking to add more back. RSI's cooled off, so I'm feeling quite confident about adding back, but also quite hopeful. A lot of people fear pullbacks, but these are you need to be adding on these things. But for some reason, even though people understand the logic that you should be selling when it goes high and buying when it goes low, they do the exact opposite. Don't know why, but really you have to change your mindset and start getting excited about these pullbacks, because these pullbacks are the gift. Broad market pullbacks are, amazing. The economy gets pumped so fast these days. Most of the recovery happens very quickly. What else are we looking at on the chart? So downside price action. Next support is kind of $400. Would love to get down there. It's pretty close right now, but under that is the golden Fibonacci. That would be the best area to add, but like I said, I don't know if it's going to get there. But if this kind of 417 area doesn't hold, where we're sort of building this volume shelf, then likely we get to that kind of $400 area. There really isn't too much volume there underneath that, so a break of that one will get us kind of to 365. So watch those areas. To the upside though, 525, that one looks good for the next upside move. If we break out of the local high, which is 490, but it's got quite a bit of graph to do then. I mean, I say quite a bit of graph, but that entire move would be about 16% to the local top and then 25% to the Fibonacci level. So, not actually that big. Price targets in general for 2025 for Tesla, what I'm currently working with is $500 to $700. Now that is a large range, but there is a lot coming out for Tesla, a lot that's really hard to price. We've got the Megapack factory coming online. We can kind of price that in fairly well, but it's the affordable car that we don't have too much information on. We don't know the ramp up schedule and all that stuff. The bots, we don't know the ramping up for that, and there's just a lot. The Tesla Semi as well will be getting ramped up, so there's a lot that could aggressively affect the bottom line for Tesla, as well as FSD. I think now in the news section when we get to it, they're rolling out the trial period, so I think FSD uptake is going to be a big driver, and that's got great margins. So who knows, this year could be crazy for Tesla, and we could just be on the cusp of something great here. Let's look at the weekly chart then. Weekly. So as we already know, this is an incredible move. We do have this tweezer top here. We haven't confirmed a break below, so that gives us a little bit of hope. But again, this is a technical issue with the chart. If we hold this level, then we don't need to worry too much about the tweezer top. That's normally a very powerful reversal, and these have been quite large wicks. If we do break below, then more downside is definitely likely. But given the delivery numbers that are coming out, I think they could kind of overwrite these technicals. The RSI on the weekly, though, is still a little bit hot, but do we worry about that on the Tesla charts? Not necessarily, because if we look back here historically, Tesla can get very hot for a very long time. It's not too much of a concern. But again, a back test of this kind of local high of 415 is what we've done. So if we wanted to launch from here, it's completely possible on a technical level for the price action to do that, but I would prefer a pullback lower, again, just so I can buy more shares because I want to be greedy. Let's look at the options market on this one then. Okay, I've been away for a wedding, so I haven't looked at any of these charts, so bear with me while I get my bearings here. I'll just start adjusting some levels so I can actually see it better. So looking at this for Friday, a lot of bearish interest in this one. I don't think Tesla's going to be sub 300 anytime soon unless something catastrophic happens. I think I'm kind of expecting a rough few weeks, but even so, I don't know if price would get that low. I think that might be a bit too ambitious. Would love it to do that though. Would love to buy more down there, but we'll see. Resistance on here is pegging at 500. That makes sense. Key psychological level, and we can see some nice volume here. We'll probably see that volume sticking around for several weeks. Support 414 again. It's kind of in line where I think it would be, and we're kind of at that. So I'd expect market makers to try and keep the price above that. But again, a break below that will go to the levels that we previously talked about. Let's push it out a week. Again, 500 is a very popular level here. Lots of volume. Market makers will be selling the bejesus out of that to keep it under 500. So do with that information what you will. Kind of a lot of volume at $400. That makes sense too. Again, we talked about that level when we looked at the chart. Let's push it out to, I need to think what dates we want to look at. Let's just go January 2026. Skip all this chaff. Let's pull the chart down because I suspect we'll be getting a lot more strikes higher up on this. Rightly so, we are. Again, most people stick in fairly safely with the kind of $500 area. That makes sense. These leaps, they'll be in the money and they'll be fine. But there's a lot of interest higher. There is a lot lower, so there is likely, I would say, this is a lot of hedging. Tesla would be a good hedge bet in a recession. A car company is going to do terribly. But I mean, that might not be the right play. We'll see. Time will tell. But again, if it's being used for hedging, it's not really too much of an issue. Personally, I wouldn't use this as a hedged bet, but we'll have to wait and see. Let's try 2027, see what the market's thinking then. I think the fact that a lot of this fades away into a more kind of neutral perspective makes me think more that it is hedging than actual people think the company's going to go to garbage. So that's interesting. So news-wise for Tesla, there's so much going on. Just jump on X or YouTube, anything. There's lots of data out there for you to nibble through. So I've just picked out some interesting bits. Let's just start at the top left and go around the board there. So Tesla is set to report its Q4 figures. Super exciting. I think that comes on January the 2nd. I didn't write that down in my notes, but I think that's right. Consensus sits just over 500K. But Tesla needs 515 to show a slight volume growth. Now, I'm not too concerned about beating for the volume growth. I think we will, but look at this trend that's forming again. We're back on track, and it's been a rough time for car manufacturers. A lot of them are really struggling, so this is great to see. Next, we've got the market share of Tesla vehicles by region. Great to see, the trend is good. The trend is your friend, as they say. Next to that, we've got the Hyundai, however you want to pronounce it. I actually really like their cars. I really like the Tucson. My parents have got one. It's very nice. But they're selling a subscription for a light pattern for their car. That's ridiculous. Something like this should be included in the car. Why are we paying extra for this? They're struggling. I think a lot of OG manufacturers are going to want to make as much money as possible, and eventually they'll probably license something from a company that has managed to survive. Below that, Gary Black. Don't always agree with what he says, but he's very good with his data. Sometimes it's more his interpretation I don't always agree with, but great, useful data. So the Shanghai mega factory started trial production. Amazing. So that's well on schedule. I think it's actually ahead of schedule last time I checked, but that's super exciting. The mega pack is one of the things I'm the most excited for in the short term, to see that those numbers hit the bottom line. On my website, thecraftytrader.com, on my Tesla thesis, I do talk about the numbers and all the good stuff coming from this, so be sure to check that out. Then moving to the left, we've got the Model Y refresh incoming, and it's great to see the inventory level of the Model Y absolutely smashed down. That's going to be great, clearing out some backlog on that. We can see that one's normally the one that we had the most inventory on. Now, I can't quite see the levels because I've stupidly made it super tiny, but I think it's about 2,500 or 3,000 units, which is amazing. And then other than that, we've got the news that the FSD trial is coming. Super excited for that. I think there's going to be a big jump in uptake on this one. So bear that in mind if you're trying to be too bearish on Tesla. This is a high margin product that they have. It's game changing. So the financials for the next quarter for Tesla should be very nice, and I wouldn't want to bet against them being anything than perfection, other than perfection. Macroeconomic news, Chicago PMI data did not come in great. If we take a look at it here, when it loads, the trend is most definitely not our friend, and this really has been kind of contractionary for a while. Let's put the chart out to something a bit longer term here. Again, with really, it looks like it was. If this was something you were analyzing from a technical perspective, you'd suspect this is going to go lower, which isn't great. I think this might have been the reason for some of the sell-off yesterday. But I think a lot of this sell-off in the broader market yesterday was probably tax washing and profit taking and stuff like that. Let's just have a quick read up here, though. The business barometer, also known as the Chicago PMI, dropped. Blah blah blah. We already know that because that's what we're looking at. The latest data indicated that Chicago's economic activity contracted for the 13th consecutive month. If this continues, I don't know. It's possible we might not be having just a pause at the next Fed meeting. Obviously, the jobs data is getting worse now. They've taken out all the editing that they've done. So if the jobs market is declining, economic activity is declining, then there is kind of going to be precedence to get things going along again and try and boost things. But we'll see. Don't really know what's going to happen until it happens. But these are just using the data that we've got now. There's data from other areas that aren't as negative, so we'll have to digest that when the data comes out as well. Other than that, more homes data. The 10-year bond yields have been going up, so home data is probably going to be not great. I think yesterday they did come down a little bit, but the market still continues to sell off. So we touched on that a little bit earlier. I think that's mostly related to tax washing and profit taking ready for the new year. Probably a lot of window dressing of portfolios and all that stuff. Tedious. Today, though, not too much out. We've got the Red Book year over year. We've got some more home data. Probably wouldn't expect that to be too exciting. More home data. Dallas Fed services. Now that is forecast to come in lower. Would actually like to see that higher. It's not good for services to be going down over a period in the calendar when you expect services to be doing much better. We can see the trend has been pretty good. It will be a beat over the previous read, but strength there is what we want to see. If manufacturing's not great, which manufacturing's not great anywhere, I don't think, from any of the recent data, services is definitely what you want to see. The service revenue is at least expected to be higher. Other than that, though, Happy New Year. Try not to be too hungover tomorrow. That's us all done and dusted for another Tesla Tuesday wrap-up. If you enjoyed this content, give the video a like, share it with your mum, your nan, your dog, your dad, whoever, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you tomorrow.